So Missing Link is the latest film from Laika Studios. You might know Laika. They've been doing stop motion films like Paranorman and Kubo and the Two Strings. And and over the years, they've made some amazing films. Like Kubo and the Two Strings is by far, I think, one of their best films. And I think they've kind of proven over time, and they proved it once again with Missing Link, is that they have this great sense of making films that are technically amazing. They look like no other stop motion film out there, but also this very genuine nature where they can feel very genuine in their humor, very very original. Have this very kind of like cultural aspect to them, but at the same time also have a lot of like fun action sequences in there too. This kind of continues that tradition. Missing Link takes place in a world where where Hugh Jackman plays Sir Lionel Frost, who is he's kind of like an amateur explorer. He's trying to be like an investigator who's gonna like unearth the mysteries of the world. He wants to get pictures or evidence of the Loch Ness monster or Bigfoot, and he just can't find it. And so he's looked down upon by this explorer society that won't accept him in unless he can actually, prove these claims that he's seeking, out these mysterious monsters. And in particular, he's spat upon by let me see if I can get his name right here, Sir Lord Pigot Dewsby, I think his name is, voiced by Stephen Fry, who basically is instilling this sensation that you're not going to find anything new. We got to maintain the order of our club. We can't have any weirdos like you around here. But then Lionel gets a tip that in America, that there might be a Bigfoot residing around the state of Washington. And so he ends up coming there, and he finds out that the letter was indeed written by Bigfoot, or Missing Link, or his actual name, which I'm not going to reveal here because it's a funny reveal. I think they revealed in the trailer, but don't watch the trailer. Just go see the film. He's voiced by Zach Galifianakis. Got to say that name right. And for Zach Galifianakis, you feel like he could overdo this role because, you think of like the Hangover films where he was kind of, being a jerk and kind of like speaking very loud and very, kind of like annoying. And he could very well here because the Bigfoot character he's playing is meant to be a little bit dumb, a little dim. He's kind of like Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, where he takes everything literally. He doesn't quite get figures of speech, which is kind of adorable. And he does end up causing some accidents. Because, let's face it, he's 8 feet tall. He's about, over 600 pounds. Obviously, he's going to cause some trouble. What would be the point of having him if he wasn't going to accidentally break stuff? But the key thing is here is, it's more meant to be an accident. Like, he's genuinely trying to be a likable kind of guy. And he's mostly kind of docile, which is, I found a really interesting aspect of seeing Zach Galifianakis voice this character who's kind of more well-meaning than he is, genuinely stupid. Like, it feels like his ignorance feels more like that, just like ignorance. Like, he's not trying to be, stupid for being, cute. Like, it feels like he's actually just struggling to understand the world. And this is where I think, the genuine nature comes in, where you do, kind of get to know and like these characters. With Hugh Jackman's character of Sir Lionel, you get to like him, even though you understand that he has this egotistical flaw where he puts other people in danger and only thinks about himself. We still kind of like him, though, because he has this genuine sense of exploration and, wanting to, embrace monsters and kind of, bring new stuff into the world, kind of change the world, even though he's got to work on that part of his personality. So I like that. He's still able to be likable, even though he has these obvious flaws that we know he has to work on. Other characters who join him on this adventure, because the adventure is that Lionel's got to escort Bigfoot to a new colony because he feels alone in the world, so he's got to find a new home of Bigfoot's. And joining them on their journey is Adelina Fortnite, who is voiced by Zoe Saldana, and she's kind of like an old flame of Lionel, but at the same time she was also married to an adventurer, former adventurer. She's a widow now, and she basically wants to break out and go on her own, solo. And so she, she feels like the world isn't going to accept them and that Lionel might not accept her. But she still puts herself out there. She's willing to get out there and go on an adventure where, they could get into all sorts of fights and have to escape nasty people who want to gun them down or stop them from, providing proof of Bigfoot and revealing more to the world. So and the thing is, we got to mention this about the film. Yes, there are a lot of messages that are pushed in here a little bit more bluntly, I think, than they have in other Laika films. Laika films have always kind of carried a theme that plays well to kids. And here there's a bunch of themes that are kind of playing into it. Obviously, there's a theme about the acceptance of evolution that plays in with the Explorers Club. There's one about, being your own kind of independent self, obviously with Zoe Saldana's character. There's one about not being egotistical, about realizing, who your true friends are when they get towards the end there. And it's kind of forced through a little bit bluntly, but I think that kind of works for a film like this, because you're targeting like kids with this, and you want kind of that type of message, especially these messages that might seem a little bit tough to weave to kids. You kind of got to be a little bit blunt with them. So I like the fact that they try to make it a little bit blunt, but at the same time, like, it doesn't become like an overly like public service announcement type movie. It is still a lot of fun. I love the chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Zach Galifianakis here. They play well as kind of like the overeager adventurer and kind of the taking everything literal Bigfoot. They're charming characters. They're a lot of fun to watch. Especially when you get Zoe Saldana in there, who's kind of just like looking at them both as kind of like idiots. She's fun as well. You have Emma Thompson playing this this leader of the Yetis, who she gets in a few funny lines here. I found this interesting too. Timothy Olyphant was in the film too as kind of like a bounty hunter tracking them down. Now, I didn't know the cast list when I went into this, and when I first saw that bounty hunter, I'm like, wait, that's not Timothy Olyphant. I thought like maybe Billy Bob Thornton, but like it kind of sounds like Timothy Olyphant. What do you know it is? There are a lot of amazing shots here. Like for a film that goes globetrotting, there's some amazing sights here. Like they show like kind of like a stuffy England. They show a logging town in Washington that feels kind of like an old-fashioned Western. They even have some barroom brawls in there. They go to India at one point. They go to the Himalayas. There's a great kind of like fight sequence on a cliff of ice. And that's the other thing too we gotta mention. Like there's a lot of great fight scenes and action sequences and chases that are a lot of fun. Like the ballroom brawl they have at a Western saloon is pretty fun. There's a great chase to get onto a train. There's a big fight on a boat that's going over huge waves. There's clinging onto like ice mountains and stuff like that. There's a lot of ambitious stuff here for a stop motion film. And of course, as with all Laika films, they have that big, wonderful moment where in the end credits, they have an Easter egg where they show you the production of how they would make a certain shot. And they show a great shot where they're kind of going through the jungle and how they were literally building the set around the characters as they were kind of going through it on an elephant. And it's amazing to look at that. They've kind of, the film was directed by Chris Butler, who has kind of like moved up the chain at Laika. He's done like some storyboarding work on stuff for their other productions. Then he started like directing on stuff like Paranorman, and he did some work on Kubo and the Two Strings as well. And I think along with like Butler and just Laika Studios in general, they've kind of created this ease that I feel when I go into into an Aardman film, because the joy of Aardman movies is that they always have this kind of like this gentle and genuine sensation to them. Like whenever I go into like an Aardman film, I can usually like I wasn't that big a fan of Early Man. I thought it was kind of muddled more in like its humor about football, but at the same time, it does have that genuine sensation to it that usually when I go into an Aardman film, I just kind of like kick my feet back and just like, okay, you know what? I trust Aardman. They know what they're doing. They've kind of proven themselves over time, and they always present they always present at least a likable film, even if I don't love it that much. But they always have this great sensibility to him. Laika's in the same camp pretty much at this point now. If you're not like at ease with them, after Kubo and the Two Strings and Paranorman and Box Trolls, I'm just kind of like, you know what? Laika's making some damn good films. I don't know if they get enough credit. Like if they don't, they deserve a lot more credit at this point. They are doing some really interesting stuff with stop motion. They're creating humor that feels more genuine rather than going for like easy kind of like pop culture stuff or stuff that relates too much to adults. There's a little bit of adult humor here, but nothing like overblown that's like just for adults here. And I think it helps that Zach Galifianakis' character of Bigfoot doesn't recognize all these jokes here, so kids can relate to him a lot. So like I said, I love the design too. I love the kind of like pointy nose design of like a lot of the characters here. I love the action sequences they stage here. Like the climax in particular is an amazing feat of kind of like using like gravity and a crumbling environment. It's amazing to watch this stuff. I think Laika at this point is doing stuff with stop motion that I'm not seeing out of stuff with I love the Aardman stuff, but Aardman's kind of like mostly kind of like more interesting for the clay and the expression and the worlds they create. Laika's staging some amazing type of films and like sequences that they're trying out here, original films too. We got to mention that too. That I think that at this point, man, if they're not getting it, like I said, if they're not getting enough credit now, they deserve it, man, because they are pulling some amazing stuff here, and these are the type of animated films that I wish there were more of. I wish Laika had that. I think they have quite a bit of pull, but I wish they had a lot of pull to pull off more of these films in a not so much a short amount of time, but I wish they had more in production at the same time to make more of these types of films, because I think we really do need these films that kind of feel like both genuine and daring with their visuals and their storytelling, with these great messages, these great characters and chemistry and their own original designs and stories. It's just it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this film. Not as much as like something like Kubo and the Two Strings, which I think is just like perfection. It's like a masterpiece out of them. But this is still a great showcase of how Laika could take this concept, which you could have easily turned this into like a forgettable CGI film at any other studio. But Laika, they take it, they make the characters genuine, they have great chemistry, they shoot it well, they do some daring stuff with stop motion here. And they just have this great kind of almost like kind of gentle humor to it, even for a film that has barroom brawls and gunfights and chases on boats. It's just a warm film that I loved watching. So Missing Link gets 4 out of 5 stars.